or is
I
it?
have no idea.
Jill, what did you sort of what do you suggest?
I would suggest item 5, because if then Dean's got any questions, he can ask in that item.
Okay, so the public participation session. So then you're kind of Dean, are you kind of giving us an introduction to all things beach related?
Yes and
TDC
no.
related.
Yeah, yes and no, because I am only furnished with the answers that I have.
Okay.
And I know that Helen is also in receipt of the same information. And that at the moment to date is what we have. But as I was saying to the team just before you came in, that there's just a willingness for us as your leisure to be better and want to improve. So we don't have all the answers. We don't have everything lined up. We don't have all the processes in place at the moment. But we want to. Cool.
Okay, so I will invite you. It will come on to public participation, and I'll say I'll ask Jill if we have anybody, and then she'll invite you on. Okay.
In that case, then I'll be quiet for a while.
Okay. Yeah. So if we all mute our microphones unless we're speaking. Thank you. Okay. So welcome to this meeting of the Planning, Highways and Environment Committee. Have we got any apologies for absences? I don't think we have we, Jill?
No.
Thank you. And are there any interests and declarations on the agenda items coming up from members? No, thank you. So the minutes from the last meeting held on the 9th of June. Hopefully everybody's had a time to read through that before the meeting. Are there any comments or amendments necessary on those minutes? No? Brilliant. Would somebody like to propose that we accept them then? Councillor Wallen and seconded by Councillor Page, thank you. And all in agreement? Lovely, thank you very much. So chairperson's announcements. I haven't got any particular announcements. We've got a lot of agenda items that we need to go through. So I think we'll go straight on to the public participation session. And we have Dean Martin from Your Leisure, who's participating this evening. So welcome, Dean. And please unmute your mic and participate.
Thank you. Do you want me to just jump straight in terms of why or what we're here for? Yeah, lovely. Okay. Thank you. I think I'm just talking to the guys prior to you popping up. COVID has afforded us the opportunity to take a deep dive across our business. And I think when we started planning and releasing or preparing for the beach hut season, bearing in mind that we're tiptoeing around the government announcement, all very uncertain. It was we were questioning why we were doing things in a certain way, and probably for the first time, because like everything's on autopilot. Everybody just goes about their day, their business, the world keeps spinning, and we all do as well. And for the first time, we're able to just stop the world and just pause and go, why are we doing it this way? Why? And not just the beach hut, everything. we have really broken the business to put it back together, hopefully in a better way. And I think that the beach huts or the bays, there is a real willingness from us as an operator to work more closely with TDC. As you can imagine, there's lots of people gone and come in terms of the across the TDC portfolio, and it's time for us to work better with our partners, and you guys being again a partner that has probably been invisible to us up until now. In terms of, from a selfish point of view, I knew that the town council existed, but not considered as a stakeholder within the portfolio that is beach huts. And I think that is where the tide is turning. And we're going, well, hang on a minute, we want to be better, but let's not go this alone. We can't do it alone. And I think this is where the acknowledgement of there's lots of people out there, and Jill's already made reference to that hey, there's volunteers that want to get involved, and it's how we get those people involved. So I think there is a willingness of everybody to pull together, and it's just that how do we go about that. So for us, it's your leisure. I think COVID has been, dare I say, a blessing in disguise, off the record. But what I mean by that is that it has afforded that time to stop and think and consider and look at options. Whereas on a normal day business, you just got your back against the wall and the plates are spinning. So for us, it's been able to do that. And even though we've got the season out this year under very strange circumstances, what it's been able to do is raise a lot of questions around we do things better next year. And so there are a lot of things that we're now opening discussions with TDC in terms of what we can, what we can't do, where are their pain points on the bays, how can we help, and just be a better partner. And it's just asking those questions or posing that challenge is how can we be better in our individuals, but also as an organisation and together as well. So for me, it's not just a win-win, but it's a triple win, because it's a win for all the organisations involved, as individuals, but also the consumers at the sharp end as well. So for me, it's a triple win.
So I think we have an agenda item that's number 7, which is cycling on the promenade. It might be useful to kind of bring that up now whilst you're here, Dean, and perhaps this is sort of a good time. Councillor Page?
Far away. Like I say, I've been read in as it is, but looking at a few emails, I don't have all the answers. However, I have opinions, a lot of them.
Yeah, so that email might be useful to sort of like be expanded upon. I think Councillor Page has that, and maybe parts of it might be read to the councillors, so we're all up to speed on it.
Absolutely, and I'm quite happy even if we go through, literally line by line if you want. I don't know how. I'm quite happy to. I do have it.
Well, I'll hand it over to Councillor Page. She's leading on this. Thank you.
Fabulous.
Thank you. To begin, this became an issue about cycling on the promenade in recent weeks when people started to become freer to go out after the lockdown. And we were beginning to get calls into the council office about concerns around safety, particularly was highlighted cyclists and safety. And we were being given examples on a daily basis of things that people were concerned about in the community. On the back of that, I contacted Julie Foster at Your Leisure, who is, as Dean knows, a senior member of the management team. And if I can read this for the benefit of residents who may be watching this. Dear Julie Foster, I'm contacting you regarding cyclists and safety at St Mildred's Bay and West Bay in Westgate. We're receiving a lot of messages of complaint from residents who are very concerned about cyclists on the promenade at the 2 bays. Their concerns relate to the fact that cyclists are not dismounting in the sections of promenade where there are beach huts, and they're cycling at high speed. As you know, the beaches are busy again in this hot weather, and we want everybody to be safe and able to enjoy their time at the coast. And then I explain my role on the council. And then I go on to say, in the first instance, we want to ask for your assistance, probably through or with the bay inspectors, to ensure that barriers are placed every day across the Esplanade at appropriate points to stop cyclists. But we also need serious enforcement to ensure cyclists dismount where and when required to do so. This is something we need to do urgently due to the reports coming into us on a daily basis so that we can address this. We are happy to liaise with the Bay Inspector. Further to that, we would also ask for your assistance to look into the signage in relation to this in both the bays. It's possible that some cyclists may not be aware that they should dismount or that there are bylaws in place. So we feel clearer signage placed more obviously to warn or advise people is needed. We will be happy to liaise with you on this to achieve what is required or necessary. And then I gave a couple of examples of reports that we'd had from residents. I did say that we needed to deal with this as a matter of urgency and asked for her assistance. Julie came back to say, I won't read the whole email, but she basically explains that Your Leisure and TDC are currently in dialogue regarding these issues, and that Your Leisure's Bay inspectors are assisting Thanet District Council in promoting their bylaws as part of their normal duties, not just around cyclists, but also other bylaws, e.g. barbecues, dogs on beaches, etc. The Bay Inspector does not place barriers across the promenades as previously agreed by TDC, and I have requested that they consider and review the current signage provision along all bays where cycles need to either dismount or be considerate around the speed in which they travel. And I know that TDC are reviewing this. I must state that our Bay Inspectors do not and are unable to enforce bylaws. They are not enforcement officers. They can only advise and guide the public. As mentioned above, we are in dialogue with the Council as to the current enforcement provision. Please be assured our Bay Inspectors will do all they can to promote these rules, and I will certainly pass on your concerns to TDC in respect of the ongoing discussions. So I left it for a couple of weeks to see if anything came out of that. And then I contacted Julie again last week. And as you know, I also copied the email to the appropriate TDC councillors who are linked with Your Leisure. I had a reply from Julie regarding that. I'll read hers rather than mine. Thank you. Well, it'll just go over old ground all the time. So Julie's reply to me was, thank you for your email sent on Thursday last week. Apologies I was unable to come back to you straight away. I will now respond to your email in the order you have written. I understand TDC's beach management team are currently addressing signage on the promenades to deal with the communication of the bylaws. I have attached a copy of the Foreshore and Community Safety Information Booklet, which includes those bylaws you have requested. And in particular, we wanted to know if there was a bylaw about cyclists dismounting at particular points or where there are beach huts. So she has actually provided that to us, as you know. I am aware that TDC Communications team are working on a more accessible version that they are able to distribute to Bay Inspectors and the public for the rest of this season. Their longer-term plan being to carry out a complete review of bylaws and the application of a more robust designation that would allow for the issuing of the fixed penalties for breaches of all coastal rules and regulations. Ideally, this would be for the next season. TDC are working on an immediate response to bylaw breaches, and they hope to have some enforcement presence on the coast that can respond to issues in various locations. I can confirm a beach supervisor has also been appointed by TDC and is on duty every weekend. We also asked the question about whether there were rules around the space that beach hut users or owners could utilise on the promenade, because we've had complaints about people spreading across the promenade, causing safety issues and access issues for people. So Julie also included for us the application forms, which included the rules for that. So we've had that clarified. And just for anybody who needs to know, the rules state that you can only utilise space up to 6 feet in front of your hut for things like chairs, windbreaks, etc. And then Julie went on, in regards to Your Leisure's Bay Inspectors, as previously outlined in my email of 25th of June, the main purpose of their role is to be a key point of contact for beach hut customers and beach visitors, incorporating an information service around the issuing of advice and guidance as to the bylaws and also general tourism related matters. Our bay inspectors are also required for beach hut / chalet allocation and general repairs, liaising with with our own and TDC's maintenance teams. They assist and support the RNLI with major incidents, conduct, first aids, and management of lost children, and carry out beach inspections, notifying the various TDC representatives of issues not relating to your leisure's responsibilities. And then she signs off. So that's just to clarify what we've been doing in the last couple of weeks and the communication that we've had between us. Thank you.
So with regards to that, there's two different types of people, the bay inspectors and then this new beach supervisor. Is that employed through Your Leisure, or is that the TDC that's employed through TDC?
I understand the beach inspector is a TDC role, and the bay inspectors are Your Leisure.
Okay, so the bay inspectors don't have any rights to enforce the bylaws apart from maybe advising people, perhaps?
Yes, they have no power, they have no enforcement muscle to do that.
But they don't put out the barriers anymore?
I don't know. I just learned that myself.
Okay. Councillor Page, do you know if they used to and why they don't anymore?
I only know that they did from physically seeing them. I don't know. Julie hasn't mentioned why they stopped doing that.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I don't know.
Okay, are there any questions to Dean or to Councillor Page from the other councillors? Councillor Cornford?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, there still doesn't seem to be any talking between TDC and us, Town Council, which is a shame. You say Julie didn't seem to take on board or mention anything about the possibility of us being in on any discussions. That's just something I wanted to flag up, because I think the more we all talk together, the better. Because at the moment we've got some pretty grim-looking no cycling barriers, which are an eyesore. They're broken. They've got sellotaped signs on them about not cycling. And it's just, for tourism, we want to look our best.
The clerk, Jill, would like to come in. You're on mute at the moment, Jill.
Thank you. Yes, just to say that I have had contact 2 days ago from a new appointed TDC officer who's going to be managing the beach for the rest of the season. So we have had some contact, albeit just recently, and I am in communication. I have left a voicemail and I hope to speak to the officer tomorrow. So hopefully we can get some more clarification, and she has been appointed to literally deal with issues on the beach for the rest of the season.
Brilliant. Councillor Cornford, do you want to come back to that? Was that a clap? That was congratulations. Okay, Councillor Wallen.
Yeah, just a simple question for the town clerk. When you say the beach, do you mean one or both the Westgate Bays, or all the beaches in Thanet, or all the ones in North Thanet?
I mean all the beaches in Thanet. So she's been appointed as an officer to deal with the beaches for the rest of the season.
Okay, well, respectively, there are quite a few of them, and although we've got 2 in Westgate, they're not that big compared to all of them combined. So it helps, but it's not ideal, but it helps.
Yeah, it's good that we've got communication with the lady, and so that will help moving forward, won't it? And perhaps we can ask these questions about the barriers and whose responsibility it is to put out the barriers. Councillor Cornford?
Yes, thanks. I just wanted to say, would it be, because we're having virtual meetings, would it be possible to invite I know today would have been a good opportunity, but to invite the TDC operative to speak to us at the beginning, like item number 5, to come in and just meet us and speak to us, or is that not a good idea?
I mean, it is an idea, but all I would say is district council officers don't normally work evenings, so she might not be available in an evening meeting. Just to bear that in mind.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Page, would you like to come back with any final questions for Dean, or any final questions that anybody's got for Dean? Because then he might want to leave for the rest of the meeting.
I don't think I've got any specific questions. The most obvious one is the barriers, because they do tend to go up on an ad hoc basis. I mean, there were 3 of us councillors doing a speed watch session a couple of Saturdays back, and somebody did put the barriers out while we were up there. So the thing is, we don't really know who's doing it or whether there's a specific responsibility. And if it's not done, if somebody can speak to a particular individual to see if it can be put in place. It's just knowing who you can go to, who you can talk to get what we regard as really small things to be done. So I don't know how you feel about that, Dean.
I'm quite happy to answer. I agree. I think you're right, because for me, being a beach user for many years and using the promenade, I have seen those barriers, and I assumed it was a bay inspector and role, only because they appear when they do. But I think you're right to question in terms of where are the barriers from, who bought the barriers, whose responsibility is it, does it then coincide with the bylaws in which they support? And so, no, you're absolutely right to I think question those, and for us then to work together to go, do you know what, if it is a simple way of just slowing people down or getting people off the bikes is just to pop the barriers out, let's put them out. However, if there is then that contravenes some form of access and things, we've got to look at that. So there is a reason why they're not out. However, it makes sense from, I guess, many years of seeing beach in use that they have been a deterrent. And what is quite funny is that I've looked at the Foreshore document today and gone through that. And do you know what? Honestly, I think that the main issue that we have around cycling is that cyclists don't know.
I think you're right.
And what I mean, because I don't think people are doing this on purpose, because the Viking Way is a cycle route promoted by Explore Kent. And so that there is this big push around come and cycle the coast, and then we're shouting at people to get off, and because it's in the bylaws. And I've looked at the bylaws today, and I've got to tell you, I love bylaws because they're always written sort of eons ago, and then when you revisit them in today's modern language, you go, is this appropriate for today? So I believe and I know that our teams are talking to TDC about the accessibility of the bylaws. I read this, I had to read it a couple of times. I live in the area, I know what it's talking about. And when it breaks it down in terms of the first promenade and second promenade, and where you can, where you can't, and where this designation line starts I've just got the notes up next to me at the moment, and it's at Westbrook Bay from a point opposite the Bowls Pavilion. Great. If I'm stood on the pond, I can't even see the pavilion upon the thing. What does that even mean? To a point opposite the slipway to the beach. Yeah. So you're as confused as me, and I know the bay and I know what they're talking about.
See, if it's cyclists who are out on holiday from other areas, they'll only know that they can ride along that Viking Trail as part of the National Cycling Network. they won't know these local points, even if they're stipulated on a board or in a booklet that they've got.
Absolutely right. And the only thing that then deters that is a barrier to go, oh, hang on a minute, I've got to do something because there's something there. So you're absolutely right. I agree.
Dean, do you know our Bay Inspector at West Bay and St Mildred's Bay?
At St Mildred's, no. It was Sharon at West Bay, but I don't know who we've got there at the moment.
Okay. So I think really what we want to do is sort of, is it possible for you to speak to the Bay Inspectors to ask these questions? Do they put out the barriers? Do they feel it's their duty to put out the barriers? And also, the discussion that we've been having is whether it could be just a general rule that the barriers are put out in front of all beach huts. So for cyclists, if it was put in a booklet, the whole of the Viking Way is accessible for cycling. However, between 10 and 6, I think it was the same kind of, it's those sort of times. Between 10 and 6, in front of all beach huts, you must dismount. And then we can put barriers in front of it. And I think it's more straightforward then if it's just clear in front of all beach huts you must dismount, because we're trying to sometimes just go right in front of the bit of the cafe there and a bit in front of just those few beach huts, but then other people in the beach huts feel a bit missed out, and there's other points where people come flying around the corner and nearly take somebody out in a beach hut. So I think it was this that we were kind of coming to sort of the conclusion of, that perhaps it would be a simple rule that yes, you can cycle along there, but between these 2 times in front of all beach huts you must dismount, and whether there's an ability to put out the barriers, but I think we need to extend some bylaws or have that as a bylaw, but we need to figure out who to speak to with regards to changing the bylaws, which seems to be quite tricky. Councillor Page.
I just want to add to what you've just said in terms of making the rule in front of all beach huts, because there are occasions where in a new season more extra beach huts have been laid out along the prom, where people have hired extra or taken on more private beach huts, and that there immediately extends the need for that rule about in front of beach huts, because they are not always in a fixed place every year. I mean, to clarify that, they are always where we see them along the edge of the esplanade, but you might find some years there are extra huts which extend further in one direction or another along the esplanade. So that rule would then cover any extra huts that then appear. I hope that makes sense.
That does make sense. That's a good point. Thank you. So, Dean, are you able to go away and report back to our clerk with regards to who our inspector is and what they feel their role is, and so we have a clarification?
Totally. What I'm doing tonight is gathering data, opinion, and thoughts and ideas. Julie Foster is the portfolio holder, and to respect hierarchy and management lines, I'll be reporting back to her to say this is what I've found out, and we need answers back to you guys. So that is the way I see things going. I'll be taking the knowledge that I've gained tonight back to Julie, and I expect it would be then Julie that then would carry on the dialogue. Sadly, this evening, it probably was my fault, because I explained that there was a meeting and there was an invitation extended. Julie's actually self-isolating under the NHS rules, so I volunteered to come along, not knowing that it was virtual. So, but by the time it was arranged, it was easy for me to rock up. So here I am. And so. But no, again, I've got a vested interest. I sort of love the base. I live in the area, so it is. I'm keen to take this back to Julie in a positive way, because we want to see it as a positive. It's that constructive criticism. At the end of the day, things are not working. How can we make them work? And so by no means are we, sort of seeing or approaching this as a complaint or something negative. It is a genuine willingness to improve that. And if cycling is the first thing that we tackle, we tackle it. And if we can tackle that via simple barriers, come on, I'm not being funny. If we can, that and a bit of signage and some improved information. Let's not go near bylaws at the moment, because I've looked at that document, and it is challenging to understand. It's challenging to understand, and you're quite right. You raised the point that holidaymakers, they will have no idea about the bylaws, and even people who cycle through Kent as well along the Viking Way, they're literally flashing through Kent on their cycles because they're following the promoted paths. That they will not have this knowledge.
I'm just going to bring Councillor Cornford in here, and then we need to go on to the. We've got quite a big agenda, so.
Yeah, sorry, I should have been invited. I've got to tell you.
No,
well, you're welcome, Dean. Thank you.
Thanks, Chair. Just very quickly, you mentioned the word signs. You had a fabulous foot that said, "Leave your print, not your rubbish." Do you have any more of those? Because
they were bespokely made, and we had a craftsman actually make those. So what we have is what we have. So if someone's nicked it, I'm gutted. But I could certainly ask if we had. But it was a man in a shed who actually got those and painted those up for us.
No, they were really good.
But the foot has been nicked. Great.
Well, brilliant. Thank you so much for coming along, Dean. And you're very welcome to come along to meetings if your supervisor can't come along, of course.
Yeah.
So thank you very much.
No, bless you all, and genuinely thank you for the opportunity. And it's a willingness to open the dialogue. Sorry, Councillor Page, if communication has been a little slow, but behind the scenes, just to give you a picture, we've got the majority, sort of 95-96% of the workforce on furlough at the moment, and there's only a few of us out, just trying to balance and keep everything going, and now ready some leisure centres that now need opening.
Councillor Page?
No, it's lovely to see you here, and they haven't been slow in responding to me. If anything, the communications I've had with Julie have been really polite and very professional, and she's always answered the questions I've asked, even if they may not be the answers I was hoping for. But this is in no way complaining. We're just trying to do the right thing for anybody using the promenade, so that everybody can have a good time on the prom and near the beach, and be safe. That's the main thing.
And we do really see that the Bay inspectors play a pivotal role in that. We really do, because they are there on the ground and managing that. And I think, you're absolutely right. And I think, with the improvement dialogue with TDC, because we don't have all the answers. So the bylaws is a fine example. The detail around the bylaws, how can we improve, how can we change, how can we update those? Mm-hmm. They're the same questions you're asking that we're asking.
Great. Well, thank you so much for coming, Dean. We're now going to move on to the next agenda item. So you're very welcome to leave the meeting, because I don't think you want to be talking about more pedestrianised crossings and things like that. You're not KCC.
No, well, thank you for the opportunity. Oh, nice to see some faces I recognise, and see you around Westgate, I guess.
Brilliant. Yeah. Lovely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, so next agenda item is the consultation for the proposed pedestrianised crossing Canterbury Road. So we have a questionnaire, consultation questionnaire. I don't know if everybody's got it in front of them or can bring it up. But we have been delegated to respond to this. So if you can get a copy or see a copy, it will be very useful to go through each question, and then Jill will note down the answers, and then we can get it sent off. So obviously question 1, please tell us what capacity you complete in this questionnaire. So that's simple. 1A and 2, simple. Question 3, please tell us how often you use Canterbury Road between the junctions of St Bertha Avenue and Domneva Road. So, sorry, Jill.
Okay, so question 3, it said not applicable if you're responding on behalf of an organisation. So that one's fine.
So can we move on to 4?
Yes.
So do you currently cross Canterbury Road as a pedestrian between the junctions of St Bertha Avenue and Domneva Road? So, I mean, I have before, I suppose. And Councillor Cornford, you would have done. And Councillor Page. Yeah. So I think I think we all do. So question 5, would the proposed pedestrian crossing make you more likely to cross at this point? Yes, no, don't know. Any comments? Councillor Page, yes. Councillor Cornford, yes.
Yes.
Councillor Waller, yes. Yeah, I think so. Yes, all round. Please answer question 6 if you're responding to the questionnaire as a pupil of Ursuline College or a parent guardian of a young person who attends Ursuline College. Jill.
Yeah, we don't answer that one.
We don't answer that one. Okay, moving on. Question 7. To what extent do you agree or disagree with the proposed Canterbury Road pedestrianised crossing scheme? Select one option. Strongly agree, tend to agree, neither agree nor disagree. Right, so this is kind of where I suppose our comments come in. And Councillor Page, you sort of, you had a very good report on that. So where do you think we are?
I personally think it's strongly agree, because when you and I visited this at the beginning of last week, it was very clear that the chosen site is very sensible, because it's just next to the exit gates from Ursuline and is very appropriate, and I feel will work very well at that point.
What about the issues that we raised though, regarding then the fact that they have to cross the road opposite? I can't see, there's no sort of, there's nowhere else to add that in. It's question 8 is your views on the equality analysis. So I think we're going to have to add in those concerns in this box here.
Yes.
So if we go for strongly agree, it's then a little bit tricky to add in our concerns. It's a little bit tricky because we strongly agree, but then with reservations, don't we? Because of this, the fact that then they're forced to cross the other road.
I mean, we do strongly agree with the crossing.
Mm-hmm.
I think then if we want to add those riders that we have, we perhaps should go to tend to agree. I mean, do the other councillors have a feeling about this?
Councillor Comfort? Oh, you were unmuted and you've just muted yourself.
Thank you. For me, that question 7 it's a principal question. Whether you agree with the proposed Canterbury Road pedestrian crossing scheme as a whole, which, yes, strongly agree, but there are aspects of it that we can lay out in question 8 on the actual way that the proposal has been set out. The only thing about Hengist is that cars will have slowed down there, because on the Canterbury Road, they're going at 40 plus, they're going between 40 and 45. They won't be going at that speed round. I mean, they're not going to do a, screeching round the corner at Hengist, are they? That's the only, I mean, I may be wrong, but that's how I see it, because I very strongly agree, because if you've watched the students at the Ursuline, it's frightening. And it has been an issue for years and years and years.
Yes.
Councillor Wallen?
Yeah, I principally agree with what Councillor Comfort said, but I've got the map in front of me of the plan, and all I would do is say that the first, 20 yards, or no, probably 10 yards, 8 yards of Hengist Road from Canterbury Road should have a barrier sort of thing there, and the crossing should be, where the road actually narrows a little bit on the map they gave us, and you've got the little box with an X in it opposite. That is where the pedestrian crossing should be, which I say is probably only about 5 yards, if that, further back from the road than where they're proposing. But where they're proposing does seem a bit too close to the main road to me.
Well, Councillor Page and I went along the road, and it did seem like a very good position as in the crossing, but what we were concerned about were when you're crossing over, they want to then move the bus stop. So the bus stop then goes across the other side of Hengist Road. So you'll cross the Canterbury Road, but then the children then have to cross Hengist Road. And currently the cars are being kind of encouraged to come round into Hengist Road to do a drop off. So we were a bit worried that they'd cross over the road and then cross Hengist without looking behind them. And so this is sort of how we want to, say that we strongly agree with it. However, these are our concerns. We know that we've had a reply to our email regarding this. So we have already kind of raised the concerns through our KCC councillor, Emma Dawson. And she has replied, and the KCC officer has replied to explain that they have to move the bus stop, because if they don't, where the bus stop stops, then they can't actually see the crossing properly if your cars are approaching it. So that's fair enough, but we're still quite concerned about this crossing with Hengist Road. And question 8, unfortunately, is just talking about equality and diversity. So we can't put, they won't kind of, our negative comments about it don't really fit in what they're asking there. So we're going to have to put our negative or all of our comments in 7A. So I'm just sort of thinking about the layout of that, as in, we strongly agree with it. However, we've got reservations, and it's just sort of like the document's not really laid out for us to be able to do that. Jill, have you got any ideas?
Yeah, I was just going to suggest that any comments that you have at all, I would put them all in 7A, and it doesn't, detract from the fact that you do strongly agree. That's, I think you're right, it's a principal statement, but the comments can all be fed into the consultation. And they have said on that email as well, the effect of displaced traffic on other roads has been raised by several other people, and we will be looking at the possible effect this might have nearer the end of the consultation. So I think it's important to feed in everything that has come to your attention, and that will all go into the consultation.
Okay, so with regards to then 7, if I then propose strongly agree, are we all happy with that? Yep. Good. Okay, so we're all going to go for strongly agree. And then 7A, with regards to the reason for our answers, we strongly agree that there is a need for a crossing on Canterbury Road, and that we welcome this proposal, and feel that it will increase this, the safety of Canterbury Road significantly. And then perhaps we can then add in our concerns with regards to we understand that the bus stop needs to be moved across the road for safety also. However, we are very concerned with regards to the pupils having to then cross Hengist Road to the bus stop. Councillor Page, is there any other sentences that you want to add in there?
I don't think so at the moment. I think as long as we address the fact that we've noticed that getting the children across the main road safely, they are then put into slightly less safe situation, having to cross the Hengist Road on a very minor crossing to get to the newly located bus stop is our main concern, I think. The other concern we need to remember, though, if we move on slightly, is that Hengist Road will become one way from the Canterbury Road towards Riders Avenue, which is the road just beyond the railway bridge. And I think we discussed the fact that there may be driving traffic into areas of the town that would not normally receive that amount of traffic if you've got parents picking up or dropping off their boys and girls. So that's another area that we may want to put in here.
Hugh, have you added a sentence with regards to that? Thank you. Councillor Corn.
I'd be concerned about the golfers as well, because they're constantly crossing from one side of the links to the other across Hengist Road. On the corner, you go round quite a sharp bend to the left, or to the right rather, and then over the Humpback Bridge, and that's exactly where the golfers are crossing. So that's a concern.
Councillor Wallen?
Yeah, so the couple of bits I would say is either Hengist Road, the pedestrians need to be encouraged to cross, 20 yards further north. Possibly the ideal solution would be to have the bus stop on the east of the Hengist Road, where it's going, and also the crossing ending up on that side. That way you're crossing on that side of Hengist Road, so you're crossing where the bus stop is, which would make life a lot easier. And the other bit, to keep the golfers and other people safe, where Hengist Road goes back to being full width from the narrow bit at the end of the parking, you almost want to have a chicane there to make sure that people can't drive fast. Chicanes do get used to slow people down, and where you've got a one-way street, they're quite common. So that would cure it in no time at all. Simple chicane at the end of the parking area.
Yeah, I do wonder whether there is a possibility of moving the crossing. I'm not totally sure whether they chose the position of the crossing because it's quite high up. The further down you go, then obviously for the safety issues. But that possibly is something that they'll look at, is to move it to the other side.
Sorry, you're only looking at moving the easterly half of the Canterbury Road. The westerly part will say exactly where it is, and you just move it to the other side of Hengist Road. So you're only moving it 5 yards, so it shouldn't have much difference, but it would avoid them having to then cross the Hengist Road.
Okay.
It makes sense to me.
That's a suggestion. Thank you. Okay, I think that's the consultation finished. Gio, is there anything else that we need to add there? I don't think so. No, is there any other comments with regards to the consultation? No, perfect, thank you. Move on to education boards. Councillor Cornford just wanted to raise a couple of points with regards to those.
Yes, they're provided by the Thanet Coastal Project. And I rang them, and it seems like there isn't anyone in the department at the moment. So I emailed, because they're there to, well, the Thanet Coastal Project is there to safeguard the wildlife and the characteristics of our coastline. And the boards, which I should have sorted out the photograph for, the one that was moved because it was in such a bad condition, when they're new, they are really informative and engaging, and they are across Thanet at all the bays. There's a line of them going across. And it's a project that's funded totally by the public and businesses in the area, which I didn't realise. So all I've been able to do is email and ask for information as to how we could possibly have a replacement board, because it is of great interest to people who want to know about the area, and an interactive board would be even better, and that would encourage even more people.
Jill?
Thank you. Yeah, I do know the TDC officer who does the coastal project, so I can probably phone him and get in contact. So I can do that.
Is that Tony Child?
Yeah.
Yes, that's who I emailed. But
Yeah.
I mean, you'll probably get through, Jill.
Okay, no problem.
Special badge.
Brilliant, thank you. Are there any comments with regards to that before we move on? No? Perfect. So next on the agenda is the tree report for St. Peter's. So I think you may have a copy of this tree report, which is very interesting. It's by the new tree officer, Kevin, and he went to the St. Peter's church site and did a survey of the trees. So he's stated a number of recommendations. So he's agreed that all of the trees that the report suggested, the report that's conducted by the tree specialist that the developer employs, he says, you know, they should all be retained, the ones that they've suggested should be retained. However, he has noticed that one of them is under stress and losing bark on the tree, and suggests that this could be pollarded for health and safety reasons. And then he goes on to regarding the trees for removal. And he's noted a couple of trees that are clearly within the curtilage of the proposed building. So that's T26, 27 and 16. And the 26 and 27, he agrees should be removed. T16, he says perhaps could be moved during the dormant season to a new position with trenching around the tree. So that was quite an interesting one. So he suggested a tree mover company called Ruskins. So that's one to keep in mind for the future, that if a developer really needs to move a tree, that there are actually professional tree movers that can move a tree successfully. T17, T18, 19, 20, 21, 22, all the way, all of those. He's stating that they are beautiful, healthy trees in good shape and form. And he suggests that these should not be removed. So these are the ones that have been suggested should be removed, mainly for the car parking. And a number of these trees he's suggesting should have a crown lift. And, you know, with that crown lift, then perhaps the parking can sort of come in between the trees. So he stated that they appear to be specified for areas for parking. However, the land is level, and he suggests clever planning could achieve the parking spaces by using a raised porous system to minimize the weight impact to the trees. And goes on to talk about some clever stuff that he suggests that they could do. Because these trees should be retained, as they have high amenity values for the neighbours surrounding the site, pedestrians and drivers along Minster Road. So, you know, these are really large home oak trees. They're in good condition. And so he's proposing that they should be kept. So I suppose, because this is the first time really we've had a tree report from a TDC tree officer, perhaps that as a committee we should then, you know, email him back, and also perhaps email the planning officer to, you know, say that we agree with this report, and that we really hope the planning officer will take it as with great weight with regards to materiality in his consideration of the planning application. Would anybody like to come in on that? Councillor Cornford, did you? You're mute. It goes on and then off, sorry.
Yes, I'm really grateful that that the TDC officer has been supportive of thinking around the issue and how we can keep the oaks and also accommodate the needs of the developer, because that's exactly how it should work. And right at the start, from the start, I've said it's about compromise. To my mind, it's about compromise, and this is really a good step towards that, because it isn't. They are an amenity. They do so much good. I mean, it's a very busy crossing. We've talked about this, and the work they do in cleaning the air for toxins from cars and for the benefit of the people who live around there. So it's very, very welcome.
Thank you. So if I can propose that we reply back to Kevin with regard to this tree report, just to say thank you for writing it, and perhaps if we can write to the planning officer who's judging the planning application to support the tree report. Would I have a seconder with regards to that? Thank you, Councillor Page. And everybody in agreement with that? Thank you. Oh, one other thing. A resident has actually raised an issue with regards to the biodiversity report. A KCC officer from KCC wrote a report that suggests that there was only 3 trees that were going to be removed. And I think because the resident has raised this, and I've looked at the document, and that is correct, that there seems to be only 3 trees being removed in her report, that perhaps we could note that as well in our communications to the planning officer. Is everybody okay with that? Yeah, Councillor Cornford, Councillor Page, thank you, Councillor Wannon. So Jill, if I send you some of the wording, and then thank you, that would save you a bit of time. Okay, so moving on to number 10, overnight parking on Sea Road. Jill.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, so obviously I know this issue raises its head every summer since I've been clerk. We do have numerous camper vans or caravans that do tend to sit on both bays. They predominantly, I think, are between the Swan and maybe the Pavilion. There seems to be the biggest concentration of them. And I know the other evening someone counted, they said there were 14 along there. Some do tend to stay for a few nights, others seem to stay for weeks on end. I do think that some of them possibly belong to residents in Westgate, and so not necessarily people are sleeping in all of them overnight. And obviously, if they are taxed insured and legally compliant, they are entitled to park on a road that has no parking restrictions, which clearly Sea Road does. It was suggested by a resident that we should look into a traffic regulation order. So really, this was just put on the agenda to see how members felt about that proposal. I have contacted Kent County Council, and they've suggested that in the first instance, I talk to the parking policy officer at Thanet District Council. I have approached him, and he said he will be coming back to me with some thoughts. I think the other confusion for people is there is some old signage which does stipulate that there is no overnight parking or sleeping on the signage, which I think I'm told came from a previous bylaw, but I've never seen the bylaw. I don't know when it was in place, and I'm waiting for the Thanet District Council Head of Legal Services to clarify the bylaws and what's currently in place and what used to be in place, so that we can get an idea of you know, where it comes from. That signage must have been there at some point for a reason. So it would be good to know the dates of when it was in place and how it now is no longer relevant. Thank you.
Thank you, Jill. Are there any feelings from the councillors on this committee with regards to whether we should have a bylaw that prevents overnight parking along there? What's the feeling? Councillor Wallen?
Not a feeling as such just yet, but an extension to that, if people park there, then they will possibly have to empty their waste unit from their caravan somewhere, and B, they may well be having barbecues on the greenery up there. Now, Jill might know the answer to this. Are there any bylaws preventing barbecues in the public along there, for example? Or should that also be something we look at?
Jill?
Maybe the same, or maybe as an alternative. If you can't barbecue there, then people won't stay there as much and be less of a problem. Sorry, go on, Jill.
Right. I think that currently Thanet District Council are looking at barbecues, and it's certainly in part of the beach management plan, because I think the stipulation of the bylaw says after 6 p.m. you shouldn't be having barbecues until after 6 p.m. But I know we're all aware that people are having barbecues, a lot of the time in the summer, and it's happening all round Thanet and Kent, actually. So it's a living deal, and I used to see people regularly having barbecues in the middle of the day, even though the bylaw said. And I think the problem with the bylaw is the enforcement. It comes back to enforcement. If you've got nobody to enforce it, everybody knows that there's nobody coming along to stop them doing something. The instinct is if they want to do it, they're going to do it. So I think it's something that we need to work closely with Your Leisure and the District Council to try and get something in place for next season, because I know we're now in the middle of this season, and sadly, things have escalated. And obviously Your Leisure and District Council are trying to mitigate as much as they can, but I think we've got a part to play in hopefully for next year as well.
Thank you, Jill. Councillor Cornford, did you have your hand up with regard to this?
Yes, I did. There have been reports of waste being taken around the corner of the bay and dumped directly into the sea by camper van owners on more than one occasion. Now that's a health and safety issue. But also it would seem sensible to think of another idea, somewhere where they can go. For instance, we've talked about Barnes Car Park and providing a space for people to go with camper vans and making it commercially viable.
Thank you. Councillor Page. It's still muted, Councillor Page.
Thank you. Sorry. Yeah, that's actually something that's being talked about amongst the residents as well, and the possibility of perhaps anybody who wants to bring a camper van to the coast and park it anywhere, and it should need to have a permit for which they are charged, so that there are rules attached to it as well, in the way that there are rules attached to the beach huts. There should be rules attached to having a camper van along the coast, where you park it, where you can't, and the permit should have a cost attached to it, because then it would make the owners of those camper vans think about what they do and where they do it. And that includes their waste, because all of those things would be incorporated as part of the rules attached.
Thank you. Yeah, brilliant. Thank you, Jill.
Just, I think, picking up on what Councillor Cornford and Councillor Page just said, if you do manage to identify an income stream, so if you have people somewhere you can actually charge, and then that will help with the enforcement, because then you've got an income you can use to pay somebody to do the enforcement. So I think it could have really good outcomes if it's done correctly.
Super, thank you. Okay, so with regards to this, Jill, are we waiting for a reply?
Yes, so I'm waiting for the head of legal services at Thanet District Council to come back to me with a stipulation about the bylaws, particularly around camper vans. I've asked, because I think if we know if there was a old bylaw in place previously, when did it no longer apply? How was, can we reinstate it somehow? Also, I'm talking to the Thanet District Council Parking Policy Officer Manager and see if there's anything that can be done there. I don't think there will be, because there's no actual yellow lines or any way that they can enforce along there. So I don't think that's going to come of anything, but it doesn't hurt to ask. And then if I get all those information, bits and pieces, I can feed that back to the committee.
Okay, so with regards to the resident that requested us to suggest a traffic regulation order to then be shared with the council and sent to the Joint Transport Board, perhaps if we gather information and have this back on the full council meeting, then we can decide then what we can do with the information. Is that okay?
That's fine.
Have I got a seconder for that proposal? Thank you, Councillor Conford. All in favour, thank you. So on to agenda item 11, update on the planning application, 106 Minster Road, Town Clerk to share the details. It's now being considered by the planning inspector, Jill.
Yes, thank you. Yes, so this was just for information really for the committee. A gentleman at 106 Minster Road has appealed in respect of the formation of vehicular access and hard standing on 106 Minster Road. So it gives you the planning inspector reference, and obviously if you want to look at the appeal, the documentation is all on the website, and the decision will be on the National Planning website as well, and it gives you the actual reference that you need to have a look there. So it's just for information really for members as an update.
Thank you. And Councillor Wallin, you looked into this, didn't you, as to why they turned that down? And you sent me an email. Can you remember? I think it was something along the lines that KCC came back and suggested that the space was slightly too small for a car. Was that correct?
It's a grey area. Depends on how big the car is. Unfortunately, that's life. So whilst it might take a Mini, it's not going to take a great big Rolls Royce. And their standards may well be that they wanted to have room to take a Rolls Royce. It's a difficult one. I can't say which way I personally feel about it, whether it should be okay or not.
Yeah, I think it's tricky. I think there's probably, you know, an exact distance, and perhaps it didn't meet that exact distance, but we felt that it was fine from our point of view with regards to taking a car off the road. But obviously if there's certain regulations and distances, then and it doesn't meet that, then this is the issue. But we shall see with regards to the outcome of this one. Okay, so on to number 12, planning decisions made. So 33C Station Road, granted permission. The change of use from the storage to the bed set. That was one that we were concerned about. However, it's been granted permission now. 1 Beach Road, part retrospective application for the conversion of existing garage to a habitable space. Are you raising your hand, Councillor Page? No. 101 Sea Road, erection of the first floor, second floor and roof extension, and that was granted permission as well. So when we come on to this 13, this was something that I thought would be useful to be added to our meeting, so we kind of look back as well as looking forward. So we look back at things that have been approved, and what implication that has to the area, and then we look at things that are still waiting to be approved so that we know perhaps when they're going to be called in. So with regards to implications for significant planning applications that be granted permission, I can't think of anything that's been granted permission that's got massive implications at this moment in time. Is there anybody that is concerned of anything that's been approved recently that has implications for the town? No, I think it's just more these ongoing things. So ongoing issues are obviously the PAVS application. So we've asked Councillor Sam Bambridge to call this in, and she has agreed to call this in. So she's been in contact with the planning officer, and he said that if he is minded to approve, he will make sure that it's called in. So in a number of communications, he has made Councillor Bambridge aware that he is concerned about the opening hours as well, with regards to the change of use. However, if he is minded to approve, he will make sure that it's called into the planning team, and they will then look at it. So the thing for us is to make sure that we know when it's called into the planning team. And then if it's appropriate, then we go and we can speak on the application. So we need to look at how many days notice we need to give with regards to that. So we just need to keep, keep in contact with Councillor Banbridge with regards to that. Are there any other ongoing planning applications that we're concerned about at the moment, apart from obviously the one at the St Peter's Church? No, I can't think. Councillor Cornford?
No, I just wanted to say that at the moment with the virtual meetings, the objections are read out by somebody from TDC at the planning committee meetings. We don't actually get to speak. You have to write out your speech for 3 minutes, which lasts 3 minutes, and it's quite a slow reader. So you have to ensure that you get all your salient points into the 3 minutes. But I think this is really good addition to the agenda, because it's a really good idea. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so if then we move on to the plan applications that we need to look at this evening. So the first one, if we take A and B together, I think, 61C Road, erection of a pitched roof re-extension with lantern roof light following demolition of existing outbuildings. And at the same time, an application for listed building consent for the erection of a pitched roof extension, and same as above. So those two taken together, have we got any comments with regards to this application? Sorry, you couldn't hear me, could you?
No.
Sorry. Councillor Page.
I wasn't sure whether I was waiting for you to say go or not.
Did you hear the first bit about what the application is? I didn't have it muted then, did I?
No, you didn't. Well, I think it's fairly obvious from item 14B that this is an application to change a listed building. It's actually grade 2 listed. There are a large number of documents attached to this, including heritage reports and design statements, which go into a great deal of detail, as is justified for a building with this type of heritage. Without going into loads and loads and loads of information, my overall feeling is that what they plan to do is very sympathetic to the building in terms of what they plan to do and the way in which they want to do it, in terms of extending at the back to create a garden room. And in order to do that, they're going to dismantle and remove some sheds, but it actually stays on just about the same footprint, and it's not going to move further backwards into the existing garden at all, according to the plans. And my personal feeling from what I've seen is that it is a very sympathetic development and will be quite a nice addition to the back of this property.
Thank you, Councillor Page. Sorry. So just following on, the strategic concept, as you were saying, was so the use is the proposal to create an additional reception room for the house to provide an area of living space with large number of bedrooms. Also to add to the large number of bedrooms. The extension is to take the form of a garden room with large areas of glazing to the two sides to maximise views into the large garden, in contrast to the sea views to the front, and to take advantage of the sheltered southerly aspect. and then the designs that they are putting forward really do look lovely as well. So we Jill has contacted the conservation officer to make sure that there's a report with regards to this. I don't think we've received that, and I don't think we've received a report from CAG with regards to this yet. No. But looking at these particular documents, there doesn't seem to be any concern, and in fact, it does look, very well looked into, thought through. And the design of it looks really good. Councillor Cornford, have you got any comments with regards to this?
Yes, I'm a bit concerned about the impact on the impact on Sea Road, and whether they're going to contribute in any way to the extra traffic that the building will generate, because it will be quite considerable. I mean, it's good business for Westgate, but as developers, are they yes, the whole term has gone from my head. It's about contributing to the environment that they're going to change quite considerably, because I think it does come closer to the neighbours as it extends down the garden, which shouldn't be a problem, but it's the traffic that concerns me. And where visitors are going to park. Mm-hmm.
So at the moment, this isn't a change of use planning application, but we need to be mindful, because it's clear that they want to. Have they made it clear that they actually want to turn it into a boutique hotel? Because this isn't a change of uses yet. This is just an extension. But we know that it's.
Oh, it's beautifully done.
Okay, so I think I can't see any information alluding to the change of uses yet.
No, there wasn't.
But perhaps we can say that we're mindful of the potential change of use. And I suppose we'll deal with that planning application when it comes up, especially including, perhaps the noise and the license with regards to this, because if it's coming out the back and there's going to be lots of people, in that garden area, how that might affect the neighbours. So we definitely need to deal with that when that part comes up. I'm not totally sure how to include it now. Jill, sorry.
Just to let you know that there is another application pending, which the planning officer at Thanet District Council said that there is a further application which is currently awaiting further information, and this will be internal works to the listed building, and the town council will be consulted on this once it's ready to be advertised.
Thank you very much. Did they say anything with regards to the change of use planning application? No. Okay. Councillor Wallin, have you got any comments with regards to this? No comment? I think we've lost you at the moment.
You broke up.
Sorry.
But ultimately, no different comments of what's been made.
Okay, thank you. So, with regards to this particular proposal, what comments would councillors like to put forward? Cornford.
I would. It's very well designed. It's very well presented. I'm just concerned about the impact on the area. I think we should be mindful of that. We are concerned about the impact on the area.
The impact with regards to the fact that we know that it's going to be changed into a boutique hotel.
Well, there will be, there must, from the design, we are being encouraged to think there will be a change of use coming up. And therefore, we're mindful of how that will impact on that area.
Okay, I think we can add those comments, can't we? That we, you know, that with regards to the listed building application and the design, then it's sympathetic to the area, and we're happy with that. However, we're mindful that there will likely be a change of use planning application coming up, and we'd like to comment that that's done taking the residents into consideration with regards to noise and especially parking. Anything else? Are they the two issues really, noise and parking?
Yeah.
Thank you. Are there any other comments with regard to this? No. So with that proposal, is everybody in agreement? Thank you. So 14 Colton Road West, Westgate-on-Sea, erection of a first floor extension above existing garage with balcony to the front, alterations to the fenestration, installation of Juliet balcony to the first floor elevation, removal of front porch and replacement with canopy. So 14 Colton Road West. Councillor Cornford, did you look at this one?
Yes, I did. There are no objections, and it's a really nice addition, and it's not impacting on any neighbours in a negative way at all.
Thank you. Are there any further comments?
Because it's where they're having the extension, it faces onto a road. So they're not hemming anybody in, and it's well designed, and it'll be lovely. And as I say, no objections.
Thank you. Any other comments? No? Okay, so we'll put forward that. Thank you very much, Councillor Cornford. Is everybody in agreement? Thank you. So the next one, Springfield Nursing Home, Hengist Road, Westgate-on-Sea, change of use and conversion of existing nursing home to a two-bed flat and erection of 2 3-bed housing with associated parking. Councillor Page.
I don't know whether anybody else found the same, but I was unable to find application 0706 on the TDC website, but looking at historical information, there was an application lodged in January of this year, which was granted permission in May for a slightly different application on this particular property. But for this application, numbered 0706, I could not find any information. I don't know if anybody else found that too.
Councillor Cornford?
No, everything I looked at had already been decided on for the Springfield site.
Yes.
So it's not just me. Good.
So with the previous application, were they, is there a different number of beds and houses, do you think? Or was it the same?
No, it wasn't the same. It was slightly different. It's been, the application here is suggesting a different number of units. But I can't find this particular application on the system. It's only the historical information related to this nursing home. And the most recent one I could find was granted permission in May 2020.
Okay, Councillor Cornford, is that?
That was the same for me. I couldn't.
We can't then judge this. So if we can just, maybe make a comment that we couldn't find the application online. With regards to the size of the plot, I suppose it's quite a large plot, and things have been agreed on that site before without much many problems. I think were there many problems with the previous application? It was approved, so perhaps this isn't too much of a problem. Jill?
Yes, so what I'll do is I'll go back to the planning applications team, because they actually sent us a letter to tell us that that's the reference that they were quoting, and that was the proposal and that was the location. So I will check that with them to make sure there's not a mix-up there.
Okay, perfect, thank you. So if we just move on then to 46 St Bennett's Road, erection of a part 2-storey, part single-storey rear extension and insertion of a first floor flank window, easy to say, and ground floor rear amended plans. So Councillor Wallin, did you have a look at this one?
Yeah, I've had a look through it. There are, on TDC site, there are 4 projections, but they're all the... Oh, hang on, my connection's going.
It's all right, we can hear you.
You can still hear me, good. There are four objections, but they all seem to be basically the same objection from the same people. 2 pages that are written and 2 that are photographs. So 4 objections. It's actually only 1 objection by the looks of it.
Okay.
It's hard to say. I don't think it's as bad as the people who live next door who are objecting, or wherever they live. I don't think it's as bad as they think it'll be.
Okay, thank you.
It's as simple as that. It looks okay, and it seems to be looking at other properties in that way. They've all got some degree of an extension at the back. Okay, this one wants to be 2 floors, so it will take up a bit more space. But it doesn't look too bad to me.
Thank you very much. Any other councillors have looked at this and got comments? Councillor Page?
Yes, I was in the area the other day, so I stopped to have a look, because on the plans it was clear that there is an alleyway or a pathway between the 2 properties. So I actually went down the alleyway. I checked before I went that I could, that it wouldn't be illegal or anything like that, and it was okay. So I went down and I was able to see the side of both properties, and I can see both sides, if I'm honest, because one of the notes in the objection was that the next door neighbour would feel like being in a tunnel if a wall was to go up higher along the edge of the next door property. And I can see why the lady or the gentleman might feel that way, because their garden at the rear is very long and very, very thin, almost galley shape really. But at the same time, there is the alleyway or the pathway between the 2. The new wall that would be going up would be not bang up against them. There would be some space with the alley. And I can equally see that the people who want to develop their property would want to do that for obvious reasons, to have an extra bedroom and extend back the dining room or the kitchen on the ground floor at a single level. It's difficult without going into a property to see the comments relating to lighting. But I think when the back floor goes up 1 level, the extra bedroom, it is going to come out further than the next door neighbour. So there could be some blockage of light, particularly to their bedroom window upstairs, because these properties are not big. And as we've commented before at these meetings, the roads around there are very, very tight, and the houses are small and packed together. There isn't a lot of space between. The only the only piece of space here is the alleyway between the two. So it's difficult, because you can see why somebody would want to develop such a small house, and they're not doing a grand development by any means. And the ground floor extension, which will have the flat roof, looks like it will only be about as, just a bit higher than the fence that's there. So the only piece that might affect them would be the extra room, the extra bedroom on the upper floor. I can only make those comments. I can't say what I feel would be right or wrong. It's just what I've observed.
Thank you, Councillor Page. Councillor Cornford, have you got any comments with regards to this?
Yes, I mean, for me, these are classic. This is a classic terrace of 2 up and 2 down. It's yellow stocks, and at the back and at the front is brick and render. And the extension will be block and render, coloured render. So it won't be traditional. And I do sympathise with the overpowering effect of an extension in that type of terrace. It will take the light away, it will diminish the outlook, and it will be overpowering and hemming in. I know that last time it came up, we didn't have the measurements, we didn't know how big it was going to be, and we didn't object at the time, but we noted that it was, we didn't really have full information. We now have more information. And for me, I think it will impact quite considerably on the neighbours.
So with regards to the other properties along there, has anybody, I think Councillor Walling, you noted that actually people have extended out the back. Is this planning application, does it seem to be extending any further than the other people who have already extended?
Yes, a little bit, I would say.
A little bit further. Councillor Page, did you see that on the
Yes, I did notice that on the site plans, yes.
It goes out slightly more than what's been...
It's difficult to know specifically, but it would only be slightly more.
Okay. I suppose the thing with regards to planning law now is that permitted development allows you to extend the back of your house by 2 stories by X amount. And I don't know the permitted development rules currently, as they keep on changing. And then with regards to light, the back of the house is south facing, so you'd imagine that the light will come up from the left hand side of the back of the house and come round. And so if there is any disturbance of light, it would be in the evening, I suppose. So that would sort of need to be taken into consideration with regards to loss of light. I suppose if the loss of light was, midday light or, in the morning, then that might be more significant as well. Councillor Cornford?
There'll be a loss of light in the afternoon from that aspect, because it comes round from the west and sets in the east, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. And they're on that corner. So as it comes round in the afternoon, from about 3 o'clock onwards, it will darken the neighbours. There was a comment in the objections that other people have extended into their lofts for an extra bedroom, which is possibly why their rear extensions are slightly smaller.
So maybe if it's a bit tricky, because I'm not too sure whether we want to completely, reject from the town council, whether just to raise concerns of the loss of light, and also to clarify what is permitted development, because if they're permitted to develop it. Jill?
Yeah, I've just had a quick look online. So apparently the householder permitted development rights allows a householder to build a single-storey extension up to half the width of the existing dwelling, a single-storey rear extension up to 4 metres in length for a detached dwelling, and 3 metres long for a semi-detached or a terraced house. And in certain circumstances, 3 metre 2-storey rear extension.
Okay, so it's not permitted development currently because of the 2-storey extension.
If it's longer than 3 metres, then it says in certain circumstances, 3 metre 2-storey rear extensions. Mm-hmm. So it only says in certain circumstances, so it doesn't tell you what those circumstances are.
Okay, so I think we can just raise the concern that currently it's not permitted development, and that there is a concern of a loss of light for the neighbour. However, we understand why somebody wants to extend, and other people have as well. So we're not objecting; we're just raising these concerns.
Yeah.
Is that okay with other councillors?
Yeah, that's fair.
Thank you. Is everybody in favour of that comment?
Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Wallen. Okay, so last one, 65C Road, a crown reduction in height and radius by 3 metres. It's a home oak. Councillor Wallen, I think you looked at this one.
Yes, I did. Assuming I worked out the right tree from the plan they've drawn the building and the garden, which probably did. It doesn't seem too bad, or seems an okay thing to do. From looking, the tree almost looks like it could do with being trimmed a little bit, because it might be getting a bit straggly with its old age. So giving it a trim might enable it to blossom a bit more.
Brilliant. Yeah, lovely. We like to see well-managed trees.
So I would say yes to it.
Lovely, thank you. So Councillor Wallen proposes that we approve this application.
Yeah.
Is everybody in favour? Lovely, thank you very much. So the next council meeting, planning meeting, is Tuesday the 8th of September. So thank you everybody for joining this evening. It's now 12 minutes past 8. We did well. That was a marathon.
Yeah, and we get a month off now.
Well, apart from the full council meeting.
Yeah.
Councillor Cornford doesn't. And Jill doesn't.
That was good.
Okay. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, Hannah.
I'll speak to you soon.
Yeah.
Cheers all.
Good night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye.